folks, Mark here again, here for another update chat on the state of our gun regulations in Western Australia, where we're at the moment. There's a few things I want to go through. I'll try and shorthand a little bit so it doesn't turn into a 3/4 hour long video. But I want to discuss some of the catastrophe that's happening at this moment with our gun laws and how the system isn't working and what's actually happening to individuals. I want to go through also a little bit what that's causing, both in what potentially government, civilization or our society, but also how we're dealing with it as a community in the firearms and recreational community, all that side of things. And then I want to give a final bit as to where we're at as a club, as an organisation, the organisation that we're trying to set up for you to become part of, that sort of stuff. But to sort of a little bit of that. I'm trying, like I said, a little shorthand a little bit. To start off with what's actually happening, yeah, it is apart from the sporting club side of things, which is largely working with being compliant and going forward and sort of largely working. There's some mess there as well, but that's the one that by design of the government is working quite well. So that's actually, there is some mess in there. It's not all easy for them by any means, but that, like I said, by design of the government, which has some other things that's causing. But as for the rest of it, as for the farming community, as for the commercial licenses, as for the recreational licenses, terrible term, conservation control, that sort of stuff, far better sort of term for those sort of firearms owners. That's a unmitigated disaster. There are literally properties that cannot get registered because of technicalities. I heard the other day that someone had several properties that they use for the licensing because they're a pest control firm. That's what they do. That's what they go and shoot pigs, but also get rid of the feral cats and the foxes and that sort of stuff that are literally decimating our wildlife. And there is mass extinction just around the corner, which unless the government changes gears in a big way, that will happen, because the recreational hunter was the chief protector of all those animals that we hold dear. It would seem the government doesn't, but if they don't want the consequence of that, we need to change. But this particular individual described very specifically that because the property owners the properties that they used rightfully for the property letters are joint owned, that doesn't work with the system. That doesn't fit the digital ID, the process that they've got. They can't get on because they're joint owned. So it is, this gentleman rung me out with, what do we do? What we do? This is coming really, really badly. Very much about conservation, very much from that angle that this is massive what's coming and how do we fix this? So Greens, all the people who are interested in that sort of stuff, all the conservationists, that sort of stuff, this is very, very important. Understand that. There's also another bunch of people, which are the firearms owners, which there is more and more coming up with. They have given up their firearms because they can't get a property letter, because they simply can't get on a property. They can't get into a club. They can't get on a property because the system won't work. Not because they can't do anything, not because they're not trying to do the right thing, but because the system doesn't work. The portal won't work. It's constantly a problem, a monstrous problem where it simply isn't working. So in this situation, the government are largely, the unelected government are behaving like thugs, where essentially you can't do the system because I won't let you, my system won't let you, but still you're a criminal the moment your license comes due. So there are people that are no doubt ashamed of what they've had to do, but just can't stand the thought of being a criminal. They've always been compliant and done everything right all their lives. And now, because of no fault of their own, with nothing they've done wrong, they are either criminals or having to surrender firearms. So this is a system that's in play. This is a real mess. If you're one of those people, even if you want to stay anonymous, please let us know what you've been through. Please give us some form or other to record it. I would suggest you put it right into the minister, you write into the commissioner, you write into the premier and say exactly what's going on with you. This is stuff that matters. Write into Kate. She's assembling all that sort of information. So Kate's doing that sort of stuff as well. So please, in every way you can, let people know this will, as much as no one's able to help you properly right now, hopefully we're not too far off, this will come into something that matters down the track. This is essentially, in a decent form, this is theft that is actually happening. You cannot extort people out of their property without that ultimately being considered theft. No matter what you've changed the laws to, ultimately, in any true common law, that is what's happening at this moment. So please pass that on. But that's some of the mess that's happening right now. Really, people through no fault of their own, because the system doesn't work, it's carrying on, and they are losing firearms, and our wildlife is going missing. Eaten by the millions. Look at some of the statistics. Truly, wild cats, feral cats and foxes. Feral cats, I think, are the chief, but foxes are not too far behind. Extraordinary good hunters, and they really like the taste of our wildlife, and they're flat out at it. Unless we can get people back in there to do the job really, really thoroughly, even more so to try and catch back up, but try and get on top of the problem, we're going to have mass extinctions in Western Australia. And once that happens, there's oopsies, probably not going to cover it. Or we didn't realise, probably not going to cover it. Anyway, moving forward, I don't want to get bogged down there. There are multiple other problems that are actually happening, and the whole property letter system, in every level, when you read between the lines, is about disarm the population, which our minister has said. Really, it's gone from the lie of guns off the streets. They've not had any guns on the streets from law-abiding gun owners, and they sure as hell aren't doing anything different about the guns that are on the streets, which would be in the criminals' hands. These laws don't affect them whatsoever, but we've moved into saying getting the guns out of the community, which I'd have to say, for the people who think it's working, if we comply really thoroughly, and then we'll be fine. Listen to the man's words. Getting the guns out of the community, that is everybody's guns. That's sporting shooters as well. I believe, and this is through no fault of the sporting community, people have to, I suppose, look at the fact that a division is being created very much designed by the architects of these rules, where things are more in favour of the sporting shooter. Now, the most compliant members of the firearms community, or I should say, the most controlled members of our firearms community, all inside clubs, all set up, all constantly visited and controlled by the police to an extreme level, beyond any other sort of group or institution in the country. That's what is very much covered. So that suits the police on that side of things, and you can see a logic there. But because the likes of the recreational hunter and the commercial hunter and the farmer, to a large degree, have been thrown under the bus here, that creates a division where there's people who say, well, look at those, they must be working with the government. They're doing exactly what they've been doing for the last 20 years. They are facilitating ranges, they're doing the bits and pieces, working with the government where they need to. This is part of the process of what they've needed to do to look after their members. They're not a fighting organisation, and yes, they have a lot of money that they have to do the right thing with. So please stop looking at it as a negative. They should be doing more. They're doing all they can in the situation they're in. This is, we want to be able to work together. For the people who want to separate and try and create divisions, whether that's virtue, whether that's ego, whether that's whatever it is, let's stop that. Let's work together. There's only really two sides to this conversation. There is the government side in all its different forms, and there is the citizen side, and in all our different forms. If we split ourselves up and fight amongst each other, they win. So we work together, build something that together, in whatever form that is, together, same team, work out the differences, see our sames, see our similarities, and work together. We gain power. We can get back to, they might actually start behave like civil servants and do things for the people rather than making us do things for the government. So please bury the hatchet, clean slate, let's work out a way to work forward. As for the government side of things, there is definitely, I can only hope, there are members of, and I suppose the government is largely Labor at this moment. I don't really want to make it a one side or the other side thing. there are some good individuals on the opposition and in smaller parties, and no doubt inside even the Labor Party, except for the Labor Party is a machine that has to go one direction. Let's let's inform the side that is doing the wrong thing how serious this is. This is going to have consequences. As to when they come out, this is the nature that needs to be put forward as to the seriousness of when you actually have what can be said as theft, let alone you actually have what will be mass extinctions, and we're not reacting to it now. That's something that should bring off alarm bells for them. But for the other sides of the government, to actually encourage them to help us. There are people that are standing up and saying this isn't right. Please look at them and work with them as well in all forms, sending letters to either side of it that we can do as a community to tell your story is very relevant. That includes if you're the guys that have lost firearms because you've had to give them up, but that includes what you're seeing in the wildlife side of things and all the other impacts you're seeing from this side of things. There's a lot more to it than the simple bits I've meant. There's a lot more nuances that are all as real as anything, including social cohesion, including mental health. All these things are being affected in this situation. When the likes of the police minister conflates the likes of getting guns out of the community because of domestic violence, the actual joining together of effectively saying that gun owners are domestic abusers in that same sentence is extreme, and the type of behaviour that the very divisive government is showing itself to be in all forms, not just about firearms in the community, but whether it's the battle of the sexes, whether it's racial, whether it's class, whether it's whatever it is that they're pushing into. Division is the nature of this government at this moment. So let's work to get together as our group, and then sending letters to them would be very relevant on that score. So hopefully there is, as to the review side of things, there is, as people who follow Kate realise, there's been another letter sent to them to say, listen, watch out for this. There's general cases that are coming up from other parties around the place in the way of trying to find angles to affect the government to make them wake up, to try and create change. Our group has been discussing, is there a way to put forward an injunction as to the mess that's coming out of this, and the very much, if common law can stand back up at all, the massive cost to the public purse, because that's where the government pays the bills, in the way of the taxpayer, out of the compensations that will be coming from the injustices that are happening right now, let alone what it goes on with our wildlife side of things. I would ask the government to stop and think about this, to really stop and think. The police are carrying on. The police have to. They've been directed to carry on doing this. The law is the law, so they're doing that. Regardless of how unjustly the law was created, regardless of how undemocratically it was created, they're going to carry on. They need a directive. The minister, the commissioner, the heads of those areas are the people that can actually make decisions. I'd ask them to think a little forward into the future and find a way. Government is very good at saying, oh, we can't do this, it's too hard, that's just impossible, until they want to do it. And all of a sudden, it's not that complicated. They just retitle this, reword this, and okay, now it's possible. This is a good time. You don't need to backpedal completely. You need to stop things so that no more damage is not created. This would be sensible business side of things. This would be sensible in the way of being accountable side of things. Not what our strength our government's shown, but I'd implore you have a look at this with a little bit of a crystal ball attached to it, so you can actually read into the future a little bit. So I would say the problems we're having at the moment of the portal not working, of the system not working and carrying on with the laws anyway, which causes voluntary confiscation, got that read wrong, but you know what I mean. They basically a theft of forms is very much what I felt may be the design of this whole process. Now, maybe ignorance, maybe lack of ability setting things up, and maybe it's a system set up by design. That comes out as we keep going forward. That's going to have huge consequences, is that word. Anyway, that's that side of things there. Who am I to tell the government what to do? I'm trying to use common sense to get us as a state and as a nation to a better place than where we're sitting right now. Lastly, I want to go into is our group, our little group. Our little group is, at this moment, officially 4 people who are trying to create something for you. This is for you. All the division that will get thrown out against us in places, which will come from places already has started. I want to come back to this simple thing. This is for you. This wants to be, every one of us is prepared to step to a side when there's comments about whether it's ego driving it or virtue driving it, or it's or whether there's going to be burnout, or in the way of whether you can keep on going with all the passion you got, that sort of stuff. Really doesn't matter. This is built for something for you to run. If you're the person that really knows how to do this, if you have the drive to be part of this, if you have the knowledge to do this, we want you. Every one of us will step aside for the man that's better than us. There's no question there. This is not a drive to be in charge of a group or to create a group for virtue or for championism or for whatever it is in the individual. This is a drive to create something that we see we need. We've been asked about it. You've asked me about it. You can be part of this. Now, some people are their busy lives, the best they have to offer is financially. That's what the GoFundMe is for. There will be a bank account very shortly, as this organisation does the official bits and pieces to make sure it's a controlled, official organisation to actually do things, to have a voice. It'll do that. Then you'll be able to join in that sort of level. As for the things that we're going to need, there's all sorts of things, from event organisers to be able to, whether it's rallies or protests or campaigns or whatever it is, to the PR side of things, which goes from social media pages to social media management to let's push into with aspirations of going to national media and go to larger campaigns and all the different ways to do that, whether it goes into the political structure, political strategizing, political lobbying and that side of things. Yes, very important. Whether it goes into a political party, because that's one side of where it goes into. But that is just in the environment of the firearms and the general rights side of things, but there are also going to be places, whether it's a four-wheel drive side to the group, or it's a national park side of the group, or it's a farmer's side of the group, in the fashion of we use, by combining all our sames, it means that our body becomes larger, which is that then is a voting block that then has some power with government. So the small groups all in the same direction. Listen, I've got nothing against it. Apart from it doesn't have the block of power, which that's what we're trying to create. So the more we can amalgamate, the more we can become something about our freedoms, about our rights, about all of our rights, in a way of getting back to where we, the people, have power over our government, the way our government was designed to be set up. That's the important part in this situation. So work out how to go forward in that sort of front. I think I've been through a lot of what the aspirations for this organisation are. It is done out of a moral need and a request that we all see and has come through many times, but we all see as a way forward that we can actually turn the tide on where this ship is heading. I think a very, very important thing. Right now, there's actually as much as we're not official in the fashion of we need to get to that place, I don't want the anchor of which is slowing us down on all the official bits and pieces we go to slow us down in the way of get there before we take the next step. I'd like to see, if you've got good legal advice or legal skills, or you've got good management skills in the way of building an organisation side of things, if you've got good PR skills in the fashion of what you think we can do better, or you can start to do things now, setting up the building blocks to build a coherent organisation and the way to build that and things to do that. The PR side of things, which includes whether it's merchandise to where it's t-shirts or belt buckles or hats or caps or whatever it is, as a way to build this organisation. It'll also turn into how to financially build this organisation if it's done smart. If you have all that, I've got ideas. Everyone's got ideas, but we're not people that have done this before, and we need your skills. We, or you,
need your skills working for us, for the entity. The legal side of things, I'll come back to. That is from every facet of my body says that what the government doing is unjust, and putting an injunction in place to actually come to something to say, listen, there is a legal stop. You have to stop here. Convince a judge to say, listen, this isn't okay. You can't get going forward. That, I think, it's hard to imagine we live in Australia and we can have this process happening. So I don't know. Legal advice for sure. If you've got that sort of legal advice, organisation building advice, maybe that's admin advice, and really feel you could be of a value to us, please form below, fill it in, tell us the details there. If it's a direct email to our email address below there, Mark and Sam's email address, I'll pass it on to the group, that sort of stuff. But I think we could do, before we get official, we could do with some individual, some personnel help to actually take on a portfolio, to work with us, to become one of the members of this group right now, even before the official organisation. We need your help, or you need your help. So I suppose that's what I can really say. I want to start doing things. There's been a comment made a few times, we aren't anything until we've done something. I could not agree more. Let's start doing something. Let's find a way to do more than just try and build the thing from the beginning. Even we have enough funds to even do some with lawyers in the way of the official stuff, if it is a real play, to go forward with injunctions or whatever letter it is. We also, I mentioned Kate, they've got her lawyers to send in, or her lawyers have sent in another letter attached to that. Kate also mentioned too, in the last comment I spoke to you about, that she was prepared to help us organise that sort of stuff in the way of Zoom meetings and things, to be able to do that side of stuff if that suited what the group wants to do. So we're not quite ready to that place. Yes, we do need the help. And everyone, whoever it is, let's stop all the divisions. Let's work together. Let's work a way to do this. Let's work the problem, which by and large comes down to us and them. Let's turn it into where it's them for us. Let's get the power back. Anyway, guys, that's that one there. I probably missed 1,000 things. I tried to squeeze a fair bit in there as into something that is palatable to watch. Thank you very much for checking in. Let's get into the fight. Let's do this and try and right this ship. Catch you next time, guys.